Hi, this is Cora Louise. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. It's my very first video on YouTube. I'm very nervous, but let's see how it goes. So, if you're not aware of what this video is about, let me give you a quick background of what I'll be doing today. I will be doing the challenge that I have created over on Instagram. My Instagram is corahlouiseillustration if you want to check it out. But I have designed a challenge called Creature Week, which is based on creating a different creature from a material that I've prompted for every day. The prompts are rock or stone, which is what I'll be doing today. Tomorrow is tea or coffee, soft toys, clouds, buildings or houses, flowers and leaves, and the last one is water. You can find out more information about this on my Instagram, as I said before, and I'll link it down below. And if you go over there, you can also join in with the challenge. Anyway, let's go on with the video. I haven't actually recorded the initial sketches for this design, which you can see in the background, but this video starts straight from the line work. But I'll talk a little about where my initial ideas for design came from, because it was actually from a Draw This In Your Style that I did a couple of weeks ago, which was Ellie vs Bear's Draw This In Your Style. Her challenge had her little ant tree character design sat on some rocks, and the rocks that I had drawn underneath and I put faces on, I was so happy with, and it actually inspired the whole Creature Week challenge, because it's not very often that I do designs that aren't humans, and it wasn't any really developed creature design, but it just sparked an idea in me that I really wanted to continue with and develop. So the middle creature, the big one with the round top and the long legs and the little leaf sticking from the top of his head, was actually one I already had in mind and was inspired by the Draw This In Your Style that I'd done, because it was a similar shape and I just wanted to add these really long legs onto it. But the other couple around it was just something I experimented with as I was doodling and drafting these creatures. Shapes and experimenting with shapes and silhouettes is something that really inspires me. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that each character could be told apart just by their shape, just by their silhouette, which is taught a lot in character design, to have really strong silhouettes, and these aren't very strong silhouettes, they're quite simple for these designs, but I really like that about them, because even though they're simple, they're very different. We've got the large round one in the middle, the very thin elongated one, and also the very short kind of boxy one on the other side, and also the baby, but that one's not really a main character design that I was looking at. But having these distinctive shapes is important to me, and hopefully tells you a bit about their character as well. I do have a bit of a story behind these characters, a bit of their background, and it's not very complicated. It's just that I just see them as these really shy creatures that look like rocks because they like to hide themselves away in the woods, in the forest, from any other creatures, any other humans. It's that the problem is they have these really distinctive patterns across them that makes it difficult for them not to be noticed. So although they really want to be by themselves and they don't want to talk to any other kind of creatures and they want to hide themselves away, these beautiful patterns that they've got wrapped around them make it hard for them to do that. Before I go on to answering any of the questions that I got on Instagram a couple of days ago, which I asked for, and mainly going to talk about style because that's important to me and has been important to my progress through my art, I just want to let you know that if you stay to the end, I'll show you how to get these as a sticker pack, and I'll show you what I've used to cut them and how they look stuck on your planners and stuff, so see if you want to purchase them from my Etsy store. So like I've just said, style has been very important in my progress throughout art, just because I struggled with it quite a lot, and I know that's something that a lot of people can relate with, and every time I put a Q&A out on Instagram, it's one of the main questions I get is, how do you find your style? And I find it very difficult to answer this question because I really don't know, and I see style as something that's constantly changing, is constantly progressing and developing, and isn't that stagnant. I feel like style a lot of the time isn't always what your art looks like, but it's also what you put into your art and how you see the world. And I think that comes very naturally and is quite often something that you don't notice in your work but other people do, because what you like to draw and how you interpret different things is a style. And although you think technically that you aren't there yet, you will always have that underlying style that's just because of who you are. So I always say just let it come naturally, just do what you enjoy, be inspired by other people, but don't force yourself to draw like other people just because you think that theirs is better than yours. You just do things in a different way, and quite often that can make you stand out. Social media can be really draining when you're struggling with self-confidence in your art, especially when you're seeing all these amazing artists coming up on your home feed. And comparing your work to others is the worst thing you can do, because you're at different stages in your art progress and you also do things completely differently. The time that really helped me when I was really struggling with my voice through my art, which I think is more important than a style, is making sure that your voice is heard through how you draw. And when I was struggling with this, I completely stopped myself from posting anything on social media. I didn't really look on there that much. I still went on, but I removed that pressure of me having to post a piece of art on there and worry about how it's going to come across. And I did this for about a month or two. I can't really remember now. It's about a year ago. But in that time, I just made art for myself. I completely experimented, just really let myself draw what I wanted to, no matter what it was. And I really enjoyed this process, and my art's changed a little bit by then, but there's things from that time that I've continued and ran with that are some of my favourite pieces of my art now. And when I got back onto social media and I continued on this progress of just making things that I liked and not worrying as much, and really found that my art started to get noticed more, and especially with the Draw This in Your Style challenges and stuff that I started to get involved in. That's so important if you're trying to get a bit more of a following to help your business grow. But yeah, I've gone through and still go through the struggles of trying to find a style. There's still a lot of things that I'm not happy with my work, and that's fine, because if you were just fine with your work, there'd be no development, no improvement, and there's always space to explore and areas to improve. And it would just be boring really if you were just fine with how your work was and you just continued with the same thing every day. And I'm not saying that your work's going to completely change all the time, but it's natural to want to explore a slightly different way to do things. So when I start feeling like I'm not as happy with my work, or maybe I want to change things, I try not to see that as anything that's negative in that people are doing better than me. It's just, I've really been happy with how my work has been, but now there's something that I want to step up on, and I want to experiment a bit with that, and I want to develop a little more. There have been things that I've watched people suggest online, which I used to do quite a lot when I thought I was struggling with my style and my voice through my art, and people are suggesting things like collecting all the pieces of art from your favourite artists and putting them in a file and looking at them and creating collages and then drawing from that, and it just never really worked for me. And I don't know who said it, but someone said it on one of the social media platforms, that just because you like a certain style of art doesn't mean that you have to draw it. There's quite often artists and illustrators whose work is completely different to me, and I love it, and sometimes I accidentally interpret that love of their work for I should be drawing like them, but that's a completely separate thing. How I draw and the work that I appreciate is two things that don't need to combine, and I can take inspiration from them, but I don't always have to. I can just appreciate their work for what it is and how different it is to mine. So yeah, I always say just don't stress about it. Just, it comes naturally, and it's just your voice and how you interpret things, and that's something that can't be forced. So just keep drawing every day and it'll come to you eventually. And quite often the experimenting process of trying to find your voice through your style is some of the most exciting times in your art process. The Draw This in Your Style challenges that have really hit off are really good for finding how you interpret characters and background design, and I think it's really helpful to do a draw this in your style challenge by kind of looking at it a couple times, but then putting it away and then just reinterpreting it from your mind rather than just copying what the other person's done, which is fine. It's really good to learn that way. But if you're trying to find how you interpret your voice and your style, I think that's a really good way to do it, is just getting it from your mind rather than seeing the image and just what you remember of it. So yeah, don't stress about style. It's nothing to stress about. Just let it come naturally. So an example of something that I've changed quite recently, I haven't changed anything massively in my style, but I felt like it was starting to look a little flat, and I like the flat look, but as in there wasn't any difference between the fabrics or the textures or the hair in my image, and I wanted to start differentiating those from each other and really exploring the different textures of different fabrics and natural materials. So like in this image, I used a brush to kind of blot about on a different layer and put that layer onto multiply to create a more uneven, rougher look on the rock, which really finished it off for me. Another way I like to create texture is using a very thin brush, and like I've done on the kind of mossy grass sections of my creatures, it's just doing these little short lines and loops and leaf shapes in a white thin brush that just really helps to create that messy texture. It's no kind of set out pattern, it's just randomly scattered little lines that bring that section to life for me. And I like to do this on clothes as well, often in the same colour as the clothes or a slightly darker colour. Just do little dots and lines around the edges that aren't always connecting with the clothes, and that can give a fluffy or woolen texture to your clothes. I also like to do this with hair. I like to have a certain shape for my hair, and then to create texture I'll do some thin lines just coming from that, just to give that sense of movement. But anyway, this piece is just about finished. I was just finishing the title off there. So here it is. Let me know what you think. And now I'll show you some footage of the sticker pack. I use a Cricut machine which I bought about a week or two ago, and it took me forever to learn how to use, but I love being able to create these sticker sheets. Rather than just all these cutout stickers, I've really been wanting to make a sheet of these, so here they are. I'll put my Etsy link below, so if you want to get some, you can. I'll be doing this for every prompt for Creature Week, so make sure to come back tomorrow, and thank you so much for watching. It means a lot. And yes, hopefully, if everything goes well, I should see you tomorrow. Thank you.